U.S. President Donald Trump delivered a nearly 2-hour State of the Union address last night, focusing primarily on the economy and affordability as he seeks to sway voters before the November midterm election. So let's welcome George Pollack, senior analyst of U.S. policy, Signum Global Advisors, to the show. It's good to have you join us. Thanks so much.
Thank you for having me.
So when it comes to this address last night, I'm wondering, was there any kind of effective strategy presented by the president in terms of tackling affordability?
No, I think this was really a speech to his base. It wasn't a speech to the moderates, the swing voters, and those who are really concerned about affordability. What it really sounded like was more of a campaign rally than the typical State of the Union, where the GOP could really reframe and reassess its message heading into the midterms.
When Trump praised his economic policies, which of those claims were kind of backed by facts and evidence and which were not so much?
I think if you look at his economic policies, he deserves success on issues like energy. I think inflation, even with the tariffs, is up, but it's not as much as the economists were talking about. But I think on things like prices, he's completely off. I think when Americans go to the grocery store, when they go buy clothing, they're feeling that the prices have increased exponentially and they just can't handle it.
There was also like a lot of eyes and ears listening to see what Donald Trump would say about that progress between the U.S. and Iran. I'm not sure how much clarity there really was on that subject last night. What did you take away from what Donald Trump had to say?
No, I think that's a great point. This was really his opportunity to make a case to the American people that military action might be necessary in Iran. And other than mentioning that they're building missiles that might threaten the U.S. or the potential threat to European allies, he didn't really make that case. But what we also are taking away from that is he also didn't want to go into war. We're thinking the meeting on Thursday is likely going to lead to some success and delay whatever military action may come, because in not making the case, he's kind of showing his real reluctance to truly get involved in a military war or quagmire, however you want to call it, that would not look great in the run up to the midterms.
He also last night, Donald Trump renewed his call to prevent private equity firms from purchasing residential properties. Do you think passing legislation like that is feasible?
Yes, I do think that's feasible, especially because right now both the House and the Senate have their own housing reform legislation. And the administration has made clear, both through statements of administrative policy and at the State of the Union yesterday, that they fully intend to back this. And my understanding is they're socializing language around where it wouldn't apply to those who build rent to build, but it would apply to those who have own more than 100 single family homes. The reality is the end legislation will be nothing like that. There will be carve outs, a higher number most likely. But I do think the president and his administration is willing to take housing reform almost hostage to ensure such a provision is included for the optics of taking on Wall Street.
There was also something that you feel, according to your notes, was kind of largely unmentioned last night in that address, and that was permitting reform. So can you explain why you think that's important? And yeah.
Of course. So the administration has really done a good job on building out its energy infrastructure and making a bet on basically drill, baby, drill, and making a longer term bet on nuclear energy. But at the same time, in order to get enough energy online between now and when nuclear comes on, we need to improve our permitting infrastructure and our transmission infrastructure. And permitting reform is the perfect opportunity for this administration to say, this is how we're bringing America in the 21st century and preparing ourselves for the 22nd century. And that would unlock energy, help address concerns with the increase in energy costs due to AI, and allow the administration to really lean into a bipartisan positive win on infrastructure, which would seem to be right up the president's alley. Yet yesterday, that really wasn't discussed.
All eyes also on midterm elections coming up in November. At this point, the Democrats are holding an early lead in polling ahead of those midterms. What do you think Donald Trump might have to do to kind of reverse that before November?
I mean, the first step is he will have to acknowledge the fact that affordability is a crisis, because while the content and the message may have been different, the same idea is that everything at a macro level is great, so you should all be grateful, was exactly what President Joe Biden and Vice President Kamala Harris were saying, and look how that turned out. He needs to address the affordability issue, crisis, whatever you want to call it, and he needs to make clear to voters that he at least cares about that issue. It can't be him continuing to say that he has solved it. From there, I think he has to more work, emphasize on bipartisan opportunities and work with Congress, not say he doesn't need Congress. I think what Americans do want to see is a government that's functioning, and while a strong executive might not be disqualifying, they also do want to see that a Congress is active and the president is willing to work with it.
All right, we'll leave it there. George Pollack, senior analyst of U.S. policy, Signum Global Advisors. Appreciate your time. Thanks for your insight.